Okay, let's take a look at 7.4a, writing linear equations in standard form. So standard form of an equation is when the equation is written with the x term first and then the y term. So this is on the left-hand side of the equation. And then that is set equal to c. And c is just a constant, which is just a number on that side. Now there are some certain things that we need to have when we have an equation in standard form. So one of the first things that needs to happen is that a, so a will be a number in front of x. Well, a has to be greater than or equal to 0. So a cannot be a fraction or decimal. So a needs to be a whole number. And a, b, and c need to be integers. And they also need to have, a, b, and c need to have no common factors. So we'll talk about that more as we get to these examples down here. But these are the different ways that we can write an equation in standard form. So if our equation has fractions, we're going to follow these steps. If our equation has decimals, we'll follow these steps. If our equation doesn't have any fractions or decimals, then we'll follow this third list of steps. So let's go ahead and first of all do this part. Use the standard form to state the values of a, b, and c for each equation. So for number 1, this is in standard form. Have a, b, and c are all integers, and a is greater than or equal to 0. So a cannot be negative. A cannot be negative. B and C could be negative. A, B, and C all need to be whole numbers. So that's the case here. So this is in standard form. So they just want us to state, what is A? Well, it's the number in front of X. What is B? The number in front of Y, coefficient of Y. And C is equal to this constant. So on number 2, this is in standard form. A would be the number in front of X, which is a 1. So don't put a 0 on that. B is the number in front of Y, which is negative 18, and C is the constant, which is 2. Now over on number 3, they give us an equation, but this equation is not in standard form, because according to standard form, A, B, and C need to be integers, which are whole numbers. And you can see that this is not a whole number. It's a fraction. We can't have any fractions in this equation. So let's go ahead and remove the fractions. If you take a look at this denominator of 2, let's put parentheses around the equation and multiply every term in this equation by 2. So we have 2 times 2x would be 4x, plus 2 times 3y would be plus 6y is equal to 3/2 times 2 would be 3. So we've rewritten this equation so that it doesn't have any fractions. Now we can go ahead and list A, B, and C. So A is the number in front of X, B is the number in front of Y, and C would be this constant term of 3. Okay, now let's go down to our next set of instructions. Write each equation in standard form. Well, you can see that the y term is already on the left-hand side. We need to get the x term on the left-hand side. So to move this term over to the left-hand side, we would add 3x to both sides of the equation. So adding 3x to both sides, we have 3x plus y is equal to negative 5. So we're just rearranging this equation. Okay, we don't have any fractions. A is not a negative number, so this is in standard form. Now we can go ahead and box or circle our answer. All right, for number 5, we need the x term to be on the left-hand side, so let's subtract 5x from both sides. So we have negative 5x plus y is equal to negative 7. Now, before you box or circle your answer, remember up here we said a has to be greater than or equal to 0, which means it cannot be a negative. A is the only one that cannot be a negative number. Since a is negative, we need to rewrite this equation. To get rid of this negative, we could multiply every term in this equation by negative 1. So a negative times negative would be positive. This positive y would become negative y, and this negative 7 becomes a positive 7. So now we have this written in standard form, so you can go ahead and circle that answer. Okay, for number 6, I'm going to go ahead and move this term over to the other side by subtracting 1/2 x. So I have negative 1/2 x plus y equals negative 8. Now remember, we cannot have any fractions or decimals in standard form. So now we're kind of looking at this step right here. We're going to multiply each term in the equation by the least common denominator. So the least common denominator, there's only one fraction on this, is 2. So let's go ahead. And we also can't have the number in front of x negative. So we're going to go ahead and multiply every term by negative 2. So negative 2 times negative 1/2 gives us a positive x. Negative 2 times 2y would give us negative 2y. And negative 8 times negative 2 gives us 16. So a lot of things you have to check for in standard form. A, B, and C cannot be fractions or decimals, and then this number has to be positive, which it is. The x and the y term need to be written on the left-hand side and the number on the right-hand side. So now it's finally in standard form. Okay, let's go down to number 7. So number 7 is almost in standard form, but we need to get rid of the fractions. So if we look at these denominators, 2 and 4, the least common denominator, so the smallest number that 2 and 4 will go into is 4. So let's go ahead and multiply every term by 4. So 4 times 1/2 x gives us 2x. 4 times negative 3/4 x, and you can do this on your calculator, or you can just cancel the 4's and end up with negative 3y, and then 4 times 2 gives us 8. So now it's in standard form. All right, number 8. Let's see, let's fix number 8. It looks like we have 2 equal signs. So there's a typo on this one. This should be a plus 5 at the end. So the very first thing I want to do is get rid of these fractions, and then I'm going to rearrange things. You could rearrange first and then get rid of fractions, but I'm looking at this 3 and 2, and the smallest number that 3 and 2 both go into is 6. So I'm going to multiply every term by 6. So if you want to on your calculator, type in 6 times 2/3, which is 4, and don't forget the y, is equal to 6 times negative 1/2, give us negative 3x, and 6 times 5. So don't forget to multiply every single term in the equation by that 6. Now in order to get this in standard form, we need to move the x over to the left-hand side, so add 3x to both sides. So we have 3x plus 4y is equal to 30. Now that is in standard form. All right, number 9. Number 9, we have fractions. One fraction. So if you only have one fraction, you can just take a look at the denominator and multiply everything in the equation by that denominator. So 6y is equal to 5x. Now to put this in standard form, we need the x term on the left-hand side. So subtract 5x from both sides. So we have negative 5x plus 6y is equal to 0. Since we don't have a number on this side, it's 0. Now we can't have a negative value in front of x, according to this. a has to be greater than or equal to 0. So now we need to multiply every term by -1. So then our final answer is positive 5x minus 6y is equal to 0. 0 doesn't change. Okay, the last two problems give us decimals. So let's go back up here to decimals, if there are decimals. Multiply each term in the equation by either 10, 100, 1000 to move the decimal until you get integers or whole numbers. So let's go ahead and look at our decimals on number 10. And it looks like we would need to multiply by 100 because we have decimal places in the hundreds. So let's go ahead and put parentheses around this equation times by 100. So multiplying by 100 will move the decimal 2 places to the right. So this becomes negative 25x. 2 places to the right becomes plus 50y is equal to 125. Now the other thing that we need to talk about is, besides that a cannot be a negative, is that a, b, and c can have no common factors. So let's go ahead and look at these numbers. We have 25, 50, and 125. They have common factors. 5 will go into 25, 5 will go into 50, and 5 will go into 125, but we want to find the greatest common factor. So our greatest common factor would be 25. So we need to divide all 3 of these terms by the greatest common factor, which is 25. So negative x plus 50 divided by 25 is equal to 125 divided by 25. And then our last step will be to get rid of this negative in front of the x. So let's multiply every term by -1. So we end up with x minus 2y is equal to -5. All right, number 11. So number 11 is another decimal, and it looks like we need to multiply by 100 in order to remove the decimals from every one of these terms. So multiplying by 100 moves the decimal 2 places to the right. So negative 75y is equal to 23x plus 78. Okay, now we need to move the x term over to the left-hand side, so let's subtract 23x from both sides. So negative 23x minus 75y is equal to 78. And then our last step, we need to get rid of this negative in front of the x. So multiply every term by -1. So we have positive 23x plus 75y is equal to negative 78.